The podcast is wider than the sky, for listen to them side by side. The one the other will contain, with ease, and you should subscribe.
The podcast is deeper than the sea, for hold them blue to blue. The one the other will absorb. We need 5-star reviews. Welcome to the Muster Drill. My name's Bubba, and with me as always is...
I'm Tiny!
Tiny, we're going to be talking about 1899, Season 1, Episode 1, The Ship, and Season 1, Episode 2, The Boy. The new show from the creators of Dark. When nothing is as it seems, can the passengers of the Kerberos unravel a mystery that threatens to turn their lives into a horrific nightmare. Let's begin our embarkment. Tiny, what are your initial impressions?
Well, coming hot off of Dark, very similar style, and my initial impressions are, I can't believe I'm going to watch this all the way through and do a podcast. I mean, it is a lot to follow. You have to pay attention. You have to look for the characters who all have quirky names. It's just exciting to get on board.
Tiny, I'm going to have a mini rant, and I'm going to say, you wouldn't normally say this on a podcast journey you're about to begin, but when this show began, episode 1 began, about halfway through, it wasn't just that I didn't like it. It was like I actively was repelled by it in some ways. And this reminds me of something I said on a Buddy's Lost podcast decades ago. When you think of those, ooh, what's going on? Oh, this is so quirky. Oh, this is so strange. This is a mystery I've got to solve. Shows like Twin Peaks, like Lost, like Dark. Watch those first episodes again. If you watch the first episode of season 1 of Twin Peaks, yeah, there's a little spice of quirkiness, but generally it's a format everybody understands. Okay, the teenage girl was murdered. The police are looking into who did it. The motives of everybody you're watching. It's actually a very simple show. It's almost a formulaic show that you had seen for the past 50 years. Watch that first episode of Lost. Ooh, there's the spice of, wait, is there a monster in the jungle? Why is a polar bear on a tropical island? But pretty much for all of its runtime, it's, ooh, we just were in a plane crash. We've got to survive. We've got to gather everybody up. We've got to help everybody. Watch the first episode of Dark. There's no supernatural stuff really in it at all. It's a small town drama about a boy whose father committed suicide. And you can relate to things like, oh, the person I like is now dating somebody else. Oh, my parents are crazy. These siblings are fighting. I understand how that is. So they hook you in. Dark could have been a perfectly fine small town drama and still work. It's a spice, this kind of supernatural element, these mysterious elements. And it's only as the show goes along that you get deeper and deeper and deeper. This was diving in off the deep end, and I really, really didn't like it. And then the craziest thing happened. In the middle of episode 2, the mysterious, creepy kid, out of the blue, he just grabs Maura's hand. And I literally did sit up, and I went, whoa, what's going on? And then almost seconds later, Captain Ike came in, grabbed the kid, threw the kid up against the wall. It's like, what's going on? What's happening? And it was like a switch flipped in my brain. I was suddenly like completely engaged. 1 minute earlier, I'd been kind of, okay, it's creepy mystery, let's get to it. And I knew like this isn't real, we're in somebody's dreamscape that begins with, the mind is wider than the sea, all this stuff. And so you're like, okay, this is an imaginary ship. All of that didn't matter. All it took was Captain Ike to grab the creepy kid and throw him against the wall. Suddenly I flipped and I was like, okay, let's go, go, go. And then when the end of the second episode, spoilers, once again, you should not be watching this if you haven't seen the first 2 episodes. At the end of that second episode, where suddenly we see the passengers on video screens, and video obviously hadn't been invented in 1899, I was just hooked. And I was like, okay, I'm going to watch this. I'm going to go for the journey. It is a crazy journey. It is a difficult journey. And so listeners, I'm in. I'm ready. I'm like, okay, show, take me where you want to take me. Somehow, child abuse got me into this show.
So I think I'm picking up with your putting down, Bubba. Basically, your theory is it's a WandaVision caper.
That is a great thing, don't you think? It has to be.
That's how WandaVision ended. All of these spooky characters are just being manipulated.
Right. Right. They all have some trauma in their past, some secret they're hiding. And this is almost like a psychological experiment to see what's going on with them. The very first flashes of the scenes are Maura in an asylum of some point. She's obviously had restraining bolts put on her hands, right? On her wrists, excuse me. And the first two episodes begin with somebody being told to wake up. I get it. And so I'm ready for this crazy journey. What do you think? Are you as engaged now as I am, or are you still like, invite me into your world better?
Both, I would say. I think there's a natural curiosity around the Titanic. You know, there's a familiarity, even though it's really creepy and slow in parts, there's a familiarity with, okay, behind the gate is the steerage, up top is the upper class passengers, and so it's reminiscent, weirdly, of the Titanic to me.
So that's our embarkment. That's the embarkment. Those are our initial impressions. If you're listening to this podcast, know you're on this cruise with us. We are going to have a 4-day cruise, a 4-podcast episode cruise, where we're going to break down 2 episodes at a time, and we're going to do it weekly. We know listeners may be listening to this who've finished the whole thing. Don't give us spoilers, but we want to know, what did you think after seeing the first 2 episodes of 1899? Are you intrigued? Did you have the trouble like I did? Did you suddenly flip a switch and get engaged like I did? Are you like Tiny, where part of it's intriguing and familiar like the Titanic, and the other part is like, yeah, okay, somebody, you need to make some sense. Write to us and let us know. We want you to enjoy this cruise with us. You can reach out to us on social media at WPHQ. That's the word double, the single letter P for podcast, HQ for headquarters, at WPHQ on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook.com/WPHQ. If you're watching this on YouTube, we need that like. We need you to go down in the comments and tell us what you thought. Tell us why we're right. Tell us why we're wrong. Join us on this journey. Tiny, I still think Dark is one of the greatest shows of all time. I really was so excited. I've been looking forward to this show for a year. What were your expectations coming into 1899?
You know, kind of going off of what we were just saying, I think, with Dark, it wasn't until the 3rd or 4th episode, when you realized who Michael was, that I was like, okay, this is a twist. We're doing time travel. And so I think it's great that you were caught much earlier in this show. But, I'm kind of waiting for the twist and for that to be revealed to understand what type of show we're doing here.
No, that is a wonderful point. I keep saying that the twist feels like that this is a WandaVision, as you keep saying, as WandaVision was a made-up, spoilers for WandaVision, everybody.
Yeah, sorry.
But WandaVision was a show where it was really about somebody going into an imaginary world where their life hadn't been ruined and how they were dealing with tragedy and grief and loss. And it does really feel like the exact same thing. Tiny, you may have spoiled the show for everybody after 2 episodes.
Sorry. WandaVision, most people were in on the joke. It doesn't feel like on this anybody's in on the joke, because they wouldn't have signed up for that.
Not at all. As we talk about these episodes, listeners, we want you to join with us. Once again, only currently talking about the first 2 episodes. We're going to release these weekly. So this is going to be a month-long experiment into 1899. And so help us solve some of the mysteries. One of the things that, if you see episode 2, the captain who is grieving because his wife apparently committed suicide and took her children with them in a horrific fire, when the captain has that vision and he finds a secret passageway underneath the bed in his cabin, there's a symbol on the trap door to his bed. It's a symbol of a triangle pointed down with a line through it. That is an alchemical symbol for Earth. So, we're only seeing the first 2 episodes. Why in the world is there an alchemical symbol for Earth underneath the captain's bed that leads to a tunnel?
Now, is this official, Bubba? You Googled this?
Yeah. Anybody can Google this triangle with a pointed downward with a line through it and see that it's a symbol. It's actually a character you can copy and paste in Word documents and stuff.
So listeners, Bubba and I are Bachelor of Arts majors. We're going to need your science majors to help us define what alchemical means. Maybe we'll go from there.
Tiny, we are trying to solve these mysteries, and they are tricky, tricky mysteries. So we have the Kerberos and we have the Prometheus. So let's see what Wikipedia-level research could tell us about these two. Now, the ship that all the passengers are on, the Kerberos, is a lot of times people think of it as Cerberus. Sometimes you might hear it's the Hound of Hell, the Hounds of Hades, a multi-headed dog that guards the gates of the underworld to prevent the dead from leaving.
It's lucky none of those passengers knew what they meant when they boarded it. Who wants to board the Hound of Hades?
Well, you think that's tough. Tiny, they go and get the ship, an identical ship, I keep pointing out, all painted black by itself, the Prometheus. And tell us what Prometheus is.
A titan who is chained and tortured by Zeus for stealing fire from heaven and giving it to humankind.
Think about this. What do they do to the Prometheus? They chain it up and drag it somewhere.
I feel like they're going to pay for that.
We really should have left the kid on that boat. Why did we free that kid?
It's weird. I hear the name Prometheus, but I was asking Bubba, is that a bug? What does that mean? But now that we have the meaning, it doesn't make me feel any more better about our cruise.
Okay, would you rather be on the Kerberos, the Prometheus, or a Norwegian cruise line?
Yeah, your pick, listeners. Pick your poison, as they say. The Hounds of Hell or a Titan who is chained and tortured by Zeus.
Or a Norwegian cruise line with all those families from America on it.
Yeah, canned fish.
I still might choose the Kerberos. Okay, well, we talked about our initial impressions on the Embarkment. Know that in the wider world, this show has been met with mixed reviews. The Guardian newspaper over in Great Britain called the show painfully slow sci-fi that is absolutely agonizing. Ouch. While the entertainment trade publication in Hollywood, Variety, said it's a crafty puzzle box that drifts off course. So those are pretty brutal reviews. While on the other side, IGN, the gaming, started as a gaming website, now pretty much all pop culture, it called it great. While another great newspaper in Great Britain, The Telegraph, gave it 4 stars and called it a combination of Black Mirror and Titanic. Those are two great combos, Black Mirror and Titanic. So again, this is going to be real interesting as we dive in. Now, Tiny, let's go on a excursion. Let's go on a short excursion over to the Prometheus. And we're on the, well, it's not a short excursion, an excursion to the Prometheus. And let's talk about our favorite and least favorite characters. So real quickly, let's go through the upper class passengers. You have what you would call our protagonist, Dr. Maura Franklin. We have the haughty woman, Miss Wilson. We have the unhappy French honeymooners, Lucien, and how would you pronounce his wife's name?
Clemence.
Clemence, okay. Yeah, she's beautiful, let me say.
Yeah.
Okay, the shady Spanish brothers who aren't really brothers, Father Ramiro and Angel. You've got the unsmiling Disha, Ling Yi, and her watcher, Ji, while we also have this person who I can only assume, the mystery man, just like in Dark, there was a mystery man who showed up. Here in this show, we had a mystery man who comes out of the water, and his name is Daniel Solis, and he seems to just take the room next to Maura Franklin's.
No big deal. I'll just check in here.
Right, and he's got a lot of, he works for Orkin, because he always has a green bug with him. Any favorite passengers, or what are your thoughts on the upper class passengers on this cruise?
I mean, this is maybe the stock answer, but I've got to go with the Dr. Maura. I mean, being a doctor in 1899, inspiring the young girl, going to help somebody in steerage. I mean, all of these things. She's a little bit, maybe doesn't have the most bubbly personality, but you can't help but connect with, gosh, if how hard must it have been to become a doctor as a woman, and everybody goes back to eating their lunch or dinner and she stands up to help.
Yeah, no, she's definitely our protagonist. She definitely cares. Right now, as far as we know her brother, if I understand this right, and I think the show always wants us to question everything, Dr. Maura's brother was on the Prometheus, right? That's kind of one of the reasons that she was on this cruise and she's going to the ship. That's what she wants to do, is find her brother, right?
Right.
So any idea, I mean, this, just because this is one of those type of shows, She doesn't recognize Daniel, the creepy guy who took the room next to her. Any chance the kid is her brother in some ways? The child, the creepy kid.
Well, I did not think of that at all.
I'm just trying to think.
Yeah. I did think that maybe Daniel is the kid grown up.
Yes. Oh, without question. Daniel totally looks like the boy grown up, the creepy kid. We need a name for him other than, well, they call it, the episode 2 is titled The Boy. So I guess we'll call him Creepy Kid.
Yeah. No. Daniel also looks a little bit like Tobey Maguire to me as well.
Oh, right. When he's evil Spider-Man and his hair gets darker. That's completely true. Did you have any affection for any of the other characters? Let's just talk about them real quick. It seems like Lucien and his wife, say her pronunciation one more time.
Clemence.
Clemence, I'm sure everybody watching this notices this, but Clemence's earrings are the downward pointing triangle with the line through them. So I have a feeling Clemence might be part of the evil gang, as might Miss Wilson. Any thoughts about the honeymooning couple or the priest? They're pairs for sure. Or of course the geisha and her watcher. Any of those three that you're like, I want to hear more of their story. For me, I think I would go with Lucien and his wife on their honeymoon, because this is an arranged marriage. They're not happy at all. Their intimacy is not intimate. I mean, they are intriguing. And so they're the ones of that group that pull me in. For
me, it's the geisha and why she's not allowed to talk. Who buys her an upper class ticket to be up, above deck, but she's not allowed to talk to anybody? It feels weird.
This is also part of my own ignorance about Eastern countries and thoughts. Her watcher tells Ling Yi, practice your Japanese. And earlier in the episode, I had the subtitles on, and it said Ling Yi was speaking in Mandarin. And so it's suddenly like, is she Chinese going to pretend to be Japanese, or is she going to marry a Japanese person?
That's a good point. So then maybe that's why she's not allowed to talk. She's undercover.
That was the only thought I could have. We need to learn more from them. Listeners, in the upper class passengers, who's your favorite? Who are the people who you're like, yeah, we don't need to see them again? Write to us in the comments on YouTube at WPHQ and let us know. Okay, so we've got the upper class. Down in the lower bowels of the ship, we have the Danish homesteaders. We've got Anchor, the bearded father. We have Ibn, the very distrusting mother who didn't want Maura to help her daughter. We have Crester, the son. We have Tove, the pregnant daughter. And we have the youngest child, R.I.P. Ada. Any thoughts about them? Did you have any warmth towards them?
I like Crester the best. I mean, he's trying to help his sister, at the risk of being beat up, thrown in the brig, whatever. I also think it's really interesting, to think about where he did get the scar from. I mean, I feel like obviously there's a story behind that.
And the captain has his own scar. So I agree. Crester is the one you're pulled to because we've spent the most time with him. Did you cry? Were you shocked that a child, Ada, got seemingly by the stranger Daniel in the second episode? Any sadness for what happened to R.I.P. Ada?
Well, I mean, I think she's the most likable character. She, she wants to be ambitious, but has to go start the church. So that seems. Now, do you say that Tove? Is that how you say her name?
Oh, I have no idea. The pregnant daughter. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like Ada is helping Crester wash, but Tove, is covered in dirt on her face, unless that's a birthmark. You just kind of wonder, like, is she not allowed to wash her face?
The mean mother.
She's got a pig pen type look to her.
The mean mother is like, make sure your brother is clean. Your sister's maybe pregnant out of wedlock. She can live in filth. Oh, that is tough. Are you one of those people? And Titanic did this a bit, the movie Titanic, where you feel for these people who aren't living in the opulence of the upper deck. And you almost don't like the upper deck because, once again, nobody moved to help the lower deck people. It's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're required to dislike the upper deck for not being helpful. But at the same time, there's something a little bit romantic about the lower class passengers, right? Like, theoretically, they are going to the new world to start a new life. And so I don't really feel sorry for them in that capacity because they are, following their dreams in a way.
Okay, the final group of characters let's talk about is the crew. Come aboard. It's Captain Ike, who has a terrible tragedy in his past. Down in the boiler room, we've been following the Polish character Oleg, who keeps longingly look at his picture of the Statue of Liberty. We also have the French stowaway Jerome, who we found out in episode 2, is a complete stowaway, and he really gets beat up. And then I guess I would say the rest of the crew, not the guys down in the boiler room shoveling coal, but we do have a group of people around the captain who don't want to trust the captain, want to follow the company, who seemingly might go AWOL and just sink the Prometheus on their own. Any of these characters grab you, and if so, why?
I like the captain. He's just got a kind of an everyman look to him. You really feel bad that he's haunted by all these images of his family, who he obviously loved very much. He really is appearing like he's making decisions in a vacuum, but he also wants some approval. He wants Maura to understand he's not, he has a mission for wanting to tow the Prometheus back.
Right. This actor, I won't even try to pronounce his name, but he, on the show Dark, played the character we lovingly referred to as Stranger Jonas, the middle-aged version of Jonas, and he does a great job of conveying emotion in nonverbal scenes without dialogue. He can get you to feel this man's pain, this man's fear, this man's anger, just incredibly. And so because of that, I do have a natural affection for him, and I want him to, whatever is happening to these poor passengers, him and Maura, as long as they get out okay, maybe Crest or two, maybe poor Oleg, who we don't know too much about other than he's longing for the new world. Save them. Everybody else can be a figment of WandaVision Dreamtown, but those are the three that I say let's save.
I can get behind that. I agree. Now, what about Jerome?
Well, Jerome is interesting in that as soon as I saw him, I thought, oh, this guy's a stowaway. And then for the next bit of episode 1 and episode 2, everybody treated him like he was part of the crew, and so I thought, oh, he's not a stowaway.
That's a strange thing. And then they're like, oh, well, you're wearing a crew jacket, so now we suspect you're not part of the crew. It was a weird way to get to him being a stowaway.
I'm here in Baskin-Robbins, and here's a person wearing a pink shirt with a Baskin-Robbins logo on it. You're a fake. Get him. Punch him.
Just felt weird that was the tipping point for discovering that he was a stowaway.
Okay, let's dive into some of these mysteries and some of the commonalities between two. Right now, we know at least two of our favorite characters, Maura and the Doctor. They both begin their episodes by being told to wake up. In both of their cabins, there is an envelope. Ike's is addressed to him. What's interesting is Maura's is addressed to somebody called Henry. Does that mean Maura is really Henry? We won't go. On the flip side, it says, what does it say on the flip side of these envelopes? What is lost will be found. Any thoughts of why these people are being subjected to this? Who gave them these envelopes? Why are they on this journey? Or is it just way too early to tell?
Well, or it's the people watching on video that have given them these envelopes. I also noticed, I guess it's the telegraph machine. When the telegraph was coming out, it was coming out in symbols. Doesn't really look like
Morse code. No.
No, maybe somebody nautical on the listener list can also help us. Is that the world in 1899 as defined by this show communicates with symbols, or is it something official that we don't understand?
Ooh, Tiny, you have me thinking, because Maura, her room is 1011, and I'm like, is that a digital, a binary code that we're supposed to figure out? Now, because I'm looking for clues automatically, once again, this first episode, I was removed from it, but I still thought, okay, I want to engage mentally in the challenge they're trying to give me. On the desk of Maura's cabin, there's the novel The Awakening by Kate Chopin, which is a novel which was published in 1899. It's set in New Orleans on the Louisiana Gulf Coast at the end of the 19th century, and the plot centers on a woman and her struggle between her increasingly unorthodox views of femininity and motherhood and the prevailing social attitudes of turn-of-the-century American South. Well, certainly I don't think this show is going to touch on turn-of-the-century American South, but is there something that could be unorthodox views on femininity and motherhood? And well, if Maura's really Henry, then maybe that is the unorthodox view of femininity.
That would be a twist.
Both of these cruise ships. Tiny, let's talk about this. How many cruises have you actually been on?
Probably, more than 10, definitely.
Have you ever been on a cruise ship or seen a cruise ship? Because both the Prometheus and the Kerberos are completely black. Did you notice this? They're like, they don't have color. They're not painted white. They're not even like gray, like the color of metal. Something's going on here. This is not a very inviting cruise.
No, I mean, but maybe back in the day, cruise was just more the mode of transportation. Yes, the upper class passengers are having a nicer experience, but it's not like we do today where we're trying to take a vacation on a boat.
Okay, well, looking at my notes, I see more possibly about femininity and gender and the role of motherhood. Tiny, when Maura is in the dining room, that opulent dining room, which is so wonderful, and that seemingly haughty Miss Wilson comes and sits next to her, they have a bit of talking. Maura is a doctor, but she's a doctor who can really only study, can't practice because of the world of 1899 and the gender roles, and everything's terrible. And I did love some of the things, not love, I did clue in on some of the things Miss Wilson is saying, where Maura said, I can only read, I can't actually touch the human brain. And Miss Wilson says, they show you the world, then they tell you you can't have it.
Just like Ada, wanting to be a doctor, seeing the doctor, but she's got to go build the church.
Oh my goodness, so great. Maura says she wants to, the mind is fascinating. She wants to learn about the mind. And then once again, the haughty woman says, aren't some things better left in the dark? Oh my goodness. What is, are these clues or are these...
Talking about dark and spotlight, do we think that the priest is with Angel?
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, is the priest part of Angel? Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah. So we had this, we do see a character, we don't really spend any time with him, a doctor who didn't move. And some of that food was, oh my God, some of that food they were serving in the upper class. I was like, let me get a burger. I'm going down to lower class. Now, once again, Tiny, you're going to have to be our resident woman of the two of us on this podcast. How horrific is it to see Tove's or Tove, however you would pronounce the pregnant daughter, where the umbilical cord is causing her pain? I mean, that is just brutal. What do you do? Oh my gosh.
Well, it is bad, but I feel like the pregnant woman screaming scene has been in a lot of movies, so it is what it is.
So the young girl, Ada, is talking to Maura. She mentions, hey, I want to be a doctor. She places a hand on Maura's belly. And then there's a flash, and one of the flashes that happens when Ada touches Maura's belly is it shows that creepy green beetle. The kid asks Maura, do you have children? Maura says she can't have any. And more of those flashes include flashes of the person that we seemingly saw her call father in the very first scene. We see her being strapped to a chair. She's being injected in her neck. And her cabin number, sure enough, is 1011. There's a shot which seems to imply that her room number in the asylum is 1011. Not good.
No wonder she's having flashbacks.
I guess we have to turn back to Angel for a bit, even though I consider him the least interesting thing. He is in a relationship with his friend dressed as the father, as the priest, but he's out there still flirting. He's still flirting. He sees Crester. He gives him his cigarette case when Crester just wants to smoke. Then in episode 2, he goes down to wet, shirtless Crester and gives him his cigarette case. I don't think he and the father's relationship is on good grounds, right?
This is like a throwback to, but with the white jacket, cigarette, the flamboyance, he reminds me of the bad guy in Titanic. This is a parallel show to the movie Titanic.
Oh my goodness, yeah, not
doesn't
good.
He
does.
He's got the mannerisms, everything about him.
Right. Well, Billy Zane, he didn't. His hair, his wig, right, his toupee wasn't exactly slicked back into Titanic. But yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. But you want to like him. You want to feel bad for everybody trapped in this terrible situation. He and when I call them his father, but he and Ramiro, they are very afraid of the ship turning around and going back to Europe. Everybody wants to get to the New World. Everybody wants to get to the New World, and having to stop and go to this ship that's been missing for 4 months, the Prometheus, and how it's empty. nobody wants to do it, Tiny.
No, not at all. What did she say? She said, we have this many passengers on board who don't want to turn around, and we have one who does.
Exactly right. So the Prometheus, let's take another excursion to it. We go over there. It is empty, but the captain finds something that obviously reminds him of his dead wife, dead family. And then, do I have this correct, that one of those green beetles crawls and Maura watches it, and then we come up to a cabinet which the child is locked inside, and he has to be birthed. Here now all I'm going to do is talking about womanhood and femininity. They have to release it, unlock it, so the boy can come out. And this is one creepy kid. I mean, how you find creepy kids.
Strangely, though, he's not skinny.
No.
He's been on the Prometheus, locked in the thing for 4 months, and, he's not skinny. That's just all I say about that.
He's got it right. This is where...
Do we think the beetle unlocked the cabinet? Like the beetle unlocked the cabin door?
Ooh, okay. And so if the beetle is like the inject in the neck, which is unlocking something in your mind, sure, okay, the beetle, yeah, I'm just saying call Orkin, call an exterminator, kill these bugs. I don't want to be around these people anymore. The child is the only one on this ship. So maybe he's not skinny because he ate the rest. This is body positive.
He's the wolf.
Oh, he is the wolf. Exactly right. Wonderful. Once they have got in the orbit of the Prometheus, their ship is messed up. All the compasses are going crazy. As you're saying, the company wants them to sink it. This is not good. Why go? Like, why? I'm with almost everybody but the captain. Well, let's just get out of here.
Yeah, even when they went to it, the point was the location was given, but not a request for help. It's bizarre.
Great point. It was south when the captain thought it had gone north. This is just odd stuff. And so then episode 2 comes around, and really the main story is of the captain and his wife burning themselves, Captain Ike. And he immediately goes to the kid. He's like, something funny is going on. He sees this trap door and tunnel underneath his bed. The tunnel, which he climbed up through the chimney in the imaginary room, in his dream vision, whatever you want to call it, the tunnel suddenly had tile on it. And I was thinking to myself, no cruise ship. Captain, put 2 and 2 together. No cruise ship has tiled walls anywhere. Captain, you got to figure out you're not in a good place. It ends with certain faces up on screens. And part of me wonders if those are the real people being experimented on, the real people in this WandaVision. And if your face wasn't on a screen, does that mean you're not real? But the issue with that is that I'm pretty sure the boy's face is on one of the screens. And he would be somebody you would definitely think is supernatural, not real. So I'm torn. Definitely the captain's face is on it. Definitely the geisha's face is on it. And so we're only 2 episodes in. It's very hard to even guess what it could be. All right, give us more WandaVision. How did that end again? So it ended with Wanda just coming to realize that, okay, I have to deal with my grief and not try to pretend it didn't happen or imagine things.
After she killed and tried to burn down the place. But yeah, so in WandaVision, she was, trying to get Vision to believe this was a real world so that she could keep him alive, basically. Now, my question is, did you think at the end of episode 2, when we find Ada, I thought that when they said, you better come with me to the captain, I thought that they were going to ambush him.
Right. And they still might do a mutiny and sink the Prometheus. I would assume these characters are going to do a mutiny. But because of the way the earlier scene with Ada was, that my mind went to, oh, they're going to show him that Ada's been killed.
And you believe it's Daniel that killed her?
Yes, and I think you're right. After 2 episodes, the boy and Daniel seemed too similar, seemed too close. The fact that Daniel wanted to get into the room where they were going to put the boy, I'm pretty sure he got on the boat before they returned from the Prometheus. So there's something about me that Daniel wanted to get in there and see it. That's my own thought.
Yeah, and he's looking around the door to make eye contact with the boy.
Oh, yeah, without question. Before we get to our listener feedback, and once again, listeners, we're always going to want to hear what you think. Down in the YouTube comments, tell us what you...
And we have only watched through episode 2.
Right, we know nothing.
So we
Don't
are
spoil
coming in
us.
cold.
Right.
Yeah.
Or tweet at us in Instagram to @WPHQ, Facebook @WPHQ. Tiny, final one. What was the biggest shock? What was the thing that you were most surprised about in this show?
You mean other than the beetle opening the cabin door?
That happens all the time. Well, is that it? Like these dang bugs?
I also, it was, I don't know if shock is the right word, but when the captain is with his family and the daughter is just set on fire.
Oh, yeah.
Just makes you, just,
right.
I don't know.
No, isn't that interesting? Because the mother kind of leaves and it's the daughter who burns up and is on fire. Yeah, once again about motherhood, gender roles. Listeners, if you've seen the head, if we're way off track, let us stay off track. Let us be completely wrong, because it is good to be completely wrong. But because we told people we were going to be podcasting about $18.99 on Netflix, we already have some feedback. Are you ready, Tiny? What's the first bit we got?
Laura McMillan at Mesocat. Thanks, Laura. Mesocat. We caught the first episode of $18.99. It's very intriguing. It definitely has our attention.
That is a kind way of saying WTF. Now, Laura's a big fan of Star Wars. She's been commenting on a lot of our Parsec Passion podcasts about Andor. She's been giving Andor like 10 out of 10 reviews. This is so different from Andor. Andor, if he was on this ship, he would have jumped overboard just like he did when he escaped the prison. What's the next bit we got, Tiny?
From Camille at Harley Camille. She said, I found Double P podcast when I started watching Dark. Thanks, Camille. And needed someone to help me process. Looks like I'll be tuning in to the podcast for $18.99. The first episode was, here's the word again, intriguing. The word of this first episode. I'm looking forward to watching the next episode. Creepy kids always have me entertained. You and me both, Camille. You and me both.
Our final bit of feedback is from our good buddy Catfish, one of the hosts here on Double P Podcast. And he didn't use intriguing, so he did miss out on the magic word, the word of the day. But Catfish, who's at CJGman67 on Twitter, wrote, you can never go wrong with a double K.
Creepy kid.
After one episode, I'm, all caps, all in. And my only issue is that I'll be done with these 8 episodes by the end of the weekend.
Slow your roll, Catfish. Get on the train. Or the cruise, I should say.
You should say that. Now, Catfish did keep writing because he is so intrigued and he's so into this. He says, this is all giving me, quote, triangle vibes. An amazing movie with Susan George, which is also an excellent mind F. Oh, have you seen the movie Triangle?
I haven't. Putting it on the list right now.
Here we go. Okay. We're going to end our cruise as we go back into port with...
the captain's dinner.
Right. So we're going to end each podcast with a captain's dinner, the highlight of every cruise, where Captain Ike has us all raise a toast and answer a question of the episode. Because we heard intriguing and because we heard creepy kids so much in our feedback, Tiny, let's do it. What is the creepiest kid in all of entertainment? Who is the creepiest kid? And there have been a bunch of creepy kids, but who is the creepy kid where you're like, this kid is the creepiest entertainment thing? Or has the boy won? I don't think it's the boy, but who is the creepiest kid?
I guess Chucky doesn't count. That's a doll.
That's funny. My mind went to Chucky, too. He's so little. Then you're like, they were the children of the corn.
Oh, yeah. They're really creepy. The blonde one?
Oh, yeah. So we're going to have some nominees for the creepiest kid to challenge the boy. It's Regan in The Exorcist. We've got the boy in Pet Sematary, both versions. The boy who comes back in Pet Sematary is very creepy. We've got Georgie in It. Remember how Georgie dies and then It, Pennywise. Boy, these are spoilers for all these movies,
Yeah,
people.
hope you've seen all these.
Georgie comes back and he is not in a good state. You have the girl from The Ring. You've got Cole, the little boy from The Sixth Sense.
This is actually my favorite on our list today.
And then the girl from Poltergeist, another scary movie from 1982. Oh, and in one of the lists we're looking at lists Danny, the boy from The Shining. I didn't think Danny was creepy.
Nah,
you wanted
he's
him
just trying
live.
to warn everybody.
So of that list, or if you have your own, who is the creepiest of the creepy kids? I'm going to go with the kid from Pet Sematary. I was at a stage in my teenage years where I read all those Stephen King novels, all the classics, and then I watched all those Stephen King movies because I'm like, oh, how's the movie of this going to be? The first version of Pet Sematary came out, and this kid, there was the line in the movie, sometimes dead is better. And it totally described this kid. He was the worst.
I have to stick with the Sixth Sense kid. And it's funny because I was thinking about the Sixth Sense watching this show that they're watching because I was like, well, I wonder if Dark is like M. Night Shyamalan. It was his best showing ever. And then he made all these other movies that were, you could argue were good here and there, but that was really the pinnacle.
M. Night Shyamalan was trying to recapture the lightning in a bottle he got with The Sixth Sense. And are these dark creators trying to recapture lightning in a bottle with 1899? Well, let me say, from our listener feedback so far, you can't go wrong with the evil child. Listeners, who's your favorite creepy kid in pop culture? Write to us at WPHQ on Twitter and Instagram. Facebook.com/WPHQ. That's the word double, the single letter P for podcast, HQ for headquarters at WPHQ. Facebook.com WPHQ. YouTube, go down in the comments and let us know what you thought. Tiny, we're going to watch 2 more episodes. Let's go through it again. These episodes always begin with somebody waking up. Which 2 characters do you want to wake up in episodes 3 and 4?
I think Crester waking up would be interesting. I really want to get to that scar.
I think because I'm probably least engaged with the geisha.
Oh, that would be a good one.
I think for her to wake up so we can get more into her story, I think that'd be good. Listeners, we're going to have 1 week from today, we're going to have our episode covering episodes 3 and 4 of 1899. We hope you enjoyed this cruise.
It's been fun cruising with you. High seas ahead.
For everybody here at the Muster Drill, I'm Bubba.
And I'm Tiny.
And we're not going to be in port anytime soon.
Come hell or high waters. That's really a really, really good choice between that for the old, how do we say the ship name again?
Kerberos.
Kerberos. Catchy.
Hell or high water. All right. See you next week.
See you next week.